Richard trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Bullies Podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bubba?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Pod Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And we are joined, as always, by Matt Casey. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And our trusted producer, Hoagie.
What's going on, boys?
Wait, that's official? Hoagie's the
Well,
official producer? I thought we were just making him
make
do the work. And
If
then
we make it official, we can tell him, like, listen, producers don't talk on the show.
Right. I mean, it helps legitimize the fact that he's got a 25-word limit.
I wasn't gonna drink tonight, too.
All 25 words
18.
in the banners.
you're doing a
No,
great
no.
job, Hoagie. You're doing
You
all the
are.
heavy lifting, and we just
The
show
show
up like we're the beautiful talent that just shows up. And
Right.
all right, Hoagie's got our.
I'm gonna
bed
put it
made.
on my LinkedIn now. It's official. That's all. That's
Right.
all I've done.
You're like
I use this
the
as a
dark.
resume booster, too.
You're like the dark-headed guy with the mustache in Backstreet Boys. Like he never sang on his own. He just kind of always did the chorus. What was his name? Kevin?
I'm so glad I don't know the answer to this, but yeah,
I was
love
gonna say
the
Joey.
mood behind you, too.
that's
Oh,
your one
Joey's
Backstreet Boy reference for this year.
Hey, at least he didn't
Oh.
sing it.
Oh, why'd you bring that up? Now he's going to. We're going to get going into the action first and foremost. We've got questions that we fielded from you guys that we're going to get to at the end of the show here. But first, right off the top, Flyers made a signing. Jackson Cates, the other brother of Noah Cates, really just the other brother, signed 1 year, $775K at the NHL level, $150 at the AHL level. John,
Mm-hmm.
any thoughts?
Keep on clogging up those bottom sixers, baby. I mean, great. It'll be a good year if this guy has to play in the AHL. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
point.
want to have to use him. I'm hoping that some more like high potential players can take those spots, so somebody like Jackson Cates doesn't need to. Sorry, Jackson.
Yeah. Hey, Hoagie, what do you think, man?
Bottom six or die. I think if he can make it onto this roster, it'd be cool to see. It gives him incentive with that 775 contract. But I mean, who knows where we're headed with this bottom six? Kind of just gives us more options. That's all.
And
That
sorry,
was
his brother is in the NHL, or his brother's still in college. I'm getting these two
Noah.
confused.
Noah Cates
both
in the
signed.
NHL.
Noah Cates is like the Scott Lawton-esque
Okay,
player.
that's what I thought. So
Yeah.
there's only enough room for one Cates on this 2022 roster right now. Now, January 2023, when all hell breaks loose, maybe we get double up on Cates, but I don't know.
The city
I
of brotherly love. Now we should
Right.
be able to accommodate two brothers, right?
Oh, who's the first blowhard who does that sign when they're on there like brotherly love? Like you know.
Do you think they'll get Johnny Gaudreau to sign it?
Yeah. Hey, I'd rather see him sign than walk. That's for sure. Let's get him in the AHL. Let him marinate a little bit and call him up when we're ready to feast.
At this rate, I mean, great. Good for the kid. Awesome. But like we've said, I think probably every episode since probably a year and a half ago, I'd say, more bottom six fodder. I mean, there's a plethora of it.
I got to tell you, it's a weird way to spell Wade Allison.
Boo,
What's
boo.
what's going on
He
with
hasn't
that?
signed yet.
I've got sources that are telling me absolutely nothing. Meaning the sources aren't telling me. Like, I don't know what's going on, but
I kind
They
of
won't
hope he's
tell
like
me.
trapped in a hostel in Argentina or something. Like it's just a really wild story that they just haven't been able to get in contact with him. Chuck
He's
is like
drunk.
calling him, "Hey, Blade, I'm still waiting for you to sign that copy of the contract that I got you."
Meanwhile, he's like Ryan
Bill
Hartman
Guerin
out
said it
fishing
was
on
a
the
great
lake.
deal. 6 years, $4 million. Kind of not sure why you're holding us out on this one.
It's a Ryan Hartman deal. He's
Using
not
all
going to
the
hear about it until he's
LTIR
back
money.
from his fishing trip. No, great for Jackson Cates. Cool, awesome. There's our thoughts, but didn't really want to spend too much time on it because it's just really not worth it. But we have a segment. There we go. We have a segment. We are coining. We've talked about this a couple weeks before. Our Thrive or Die segment. We are finally getting down to it after weeks of anticipation here. We've got every week moving forward, we're going to touch on 4 players. We're going to go by the highest paid to the lowest paid, starting today with 4 guys that we're going to come up with right now. Are they going to thrive under Tortorella? Or are they going to die under Tortorella? Not actually die, but not do well. Let's call it that.
Maybe we can pick like one
Just
or
their
two that like we,
careers. Just their careers will die.
Yes, just their careers, not their actual person, but careers.
could we all
in
choose one
Philadelphia.
player that we think could potentially actually die, though?
Connect me.
Jeez. Quick with it.
Just the style of play. No.
Carter Hart.
I
Lonely I am in my
Yo.
room again.
Here we go.
shouldn't have said that, right? No. Anybody else catch that?
Well, no.
No, if we're talking to
I-
players who are actually
I
going to
heard
die.
you. I heard you.
Oh,
Oh,
you heard me.
mm,
I didn't hear it.
Anyways, let's get down to some real talk here. Starting with the first player, Sean Couturier, highest paid guy on the team. We're looking at whether he's going to thrive or die under Tortorella's system. So, started with John for Jackson Cates. I'm going to go down to Hoagie here first.
oh, great. I got Jackson Cates.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to be fair. Get over it. Hoagie, you earned it. Let's go.
Freaking. Never
All
mind.
right. For
Say it.
Coots, I think he'll thrive under Tortorella. I don't think it might be on the fence this year, but I think in the future under Tortorella's reign, we'll see Couturier just thrive. It's that defensive mentality type of style that Tortorella preaches, and that's Coots to a T. I mean, I just put numbers for the past 3 years. I mean, 46 goals, 71 assists. He's that type of player that kind of is reserved in his play, but can turn it on in the turn of play. Kind of like we're hoping with the Morgan Frost.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right, Casey, your take on this.
I'm with Hoagie on this. I think he thrives, and this is with the big asterisk that assuming he is healthy, which I think we can all put that one to rest there. But I think he thrives as well, and I think you look at his style of play and the back checking does, the defensive responsibility. Like he is almost the personification of what you look at Tortorella's systems to like want to be, and so unless like. They end up, getting in some vicious off-ice argument that, causes a rift. I can't see a reason why on ice Coots wouldn't be a total, dream player for someone like Tortorella and his staff.
Sure. Good points. All good points. John,
I
finally.
mean, yeah. I mean, I agree with everything that they all said. I think he thrives. He's the perfect Tortorella player in my mind. I also wonder if Tortorella can get a little something more out of him, right? I mean, we need that leadership, and I think that Coots has always kind of been a more quiet player. I wonder if Tortorella will try to demand a little bit more like vocal or like actionable leadership,
Sure.
just because he is kind of like when healthy, the new face of this franchise.
It's the elder statesman of the club, essentially.
Right.
So I wonder if Tortorella can get that out of him, if that's even in Coots' wheelhouse. But I think that of all the players, he's an obvious thrives.
I'm surprised none of you touched on the impending naming of a captain. I feel like we could call it impending, right? If that's given to Sean Couturier, I absolutely expect more pressure to be on him, but I expect it to be a good type of pressure and something that I think he would respond well to, whether it's let's just call it the coaching. I think he'd respond well to the coaching of John Tortorella. As a captain, different story. But again, John touched on it. You guys all touched on it. The system's the right system for him. I think he could really do well. You know, if we can get back to a consistent 70-point player, like I'd be happy. Little more to be desired. Like if he could reach that 80-point plateau, I'd be pretty happy. But, you know, let's start with baby steps. That surgery that he had's a decently serious one. So I'll start with 70 points. I'll get happy with that and see how it goes.
I'll start with, can he actually skate a shift? Like, is that in the wheelhouse right now?
Yeah.
Like, I think I like John's point, though, of can Torts get something more out of him from the leadership standpoint. And I think, like, we'll probably end up saying this for several of the higher paid players here. Sure. But, like, for so long, it's been the G shows featuring X, Y, and Z. And Coots has been in there for a long time. You know, at some point, you know, Giroux's gone. He's not coming back. And, you know, have fun. You can no longer rely on him. And I don't know if people are going to necessarily think like, oh, Coots, you got to step up and fill all those points and stuff like that as well.
Right.
I think he's a little bit more grounded than that. But I do think there's a leadership and a mentality standpoint, you know, with Tortorella that I think he will be able to find. I personally, to the captain thing, Derek, I don't think they're going to name one this year. I wouldn't be.
I don't think so either.
John and I talked about that last weekend. It'd be. I'm not against it.
There's just no need for it.
It's a ballsy move, to be honest.
And I think kind of to piggyback off of what Casey was saying, like I think that Tortorella can approach Couturier and say, "Listen, there's a culture that we're trying to create here, right? You are now kind of the elder statesman here. I need you to show this culture. You know, it might you might have to really dig deep to find it, but I know it's there. But I need you to buy in order to make sure everybody else buys in."
That's the key. Getting a guy, especially Couturier. I'm not even going to say like Couturier, but a guy.
Couturier.
Yeah, Sean Couturier to buy in because he's the guy that's been here the longest. He's the guy. He is the elder statesman. Seeing him buy in, you know, guys like Atkinson are likely going to buy in as well. That speaks volumes for the young kids that they're going to eventually slot into the lineup. You know, probably in the bottom six for now. But it creates a good culture. It creates a culture that you can build on, a culture that, you know, moving forward, that is what the team is. And I think that's just a big step in the right direction for this team.
Is this year one of his new contract?
Yeah.
Yes.
Year one. Yep.
And what is it, a 7-year contract he has? Or what's he have?
I think it's 8.
I think
it's 8.
So I would argue like he has to buy it. Like there's
I
got no place else to go. He's got to buy in. I'm assuming there's a no move clause in there in some way, shape, or form. But
I don't think there is.
Oh, really?
I really couldn't tell you. Now you got me curious.
Well, John's going to look that up, but you know, Couturier buying in is essential. You know, and I think again, I think he'll do well under Tortorella. Honestly, I've got high hopes for a lot of people in this organization. I hate saying, I'm not saying like high hopes as in like they're going to start producing, they're going to be a playoff team, stuff like that, but like they can develop and they can get back to what they should be as opposed to what they have been over the past 3-4 years, you want to call it.
I'd even argue that. So, go ahead, John.
All right, 8 years, no movement, full no movement for the first 7, modified for the 8th.
Okay, I was wrong. Shocker.
He's got to buy in. He's here. He's got to do it.
He's not going anywhere. He's in there like Nick Delorier.
I think he's got to be frustrated because his first year was 2012, 2011, somewhere around there. Like, I mean, he was a young player.
Sure.
He's been through the gauntlet, man. Like, he's been through – who was the coach back then? Was it Laviolette still?
Laviolette still.
Laviolette.
Yep.
Then
it was the year in the playoffs and he shut down Malkin.
Laviolette, Berube, Hackstall.
Berube. Oh, my God. Hackstall, AV. And now this.
Scott Gordon. Don't forget about Scott Gordon.
Like, yo. So he's
Canucks coach.
Through it. And if anybody has like a perspective of like, okay, I remember what a winning culture is, and what we've had in the last 2 years is not it. You know, hopefully he sees this as like, okay, we've boiled down all the crap. Now we have to build back up. And
Right.
him coming back from injury, I think maybe that helps him mentally. It's like, I got something to prove here. I'm not just coasting on this. I got something to prove.
Well, with another guy with something to. I'm sorry, Hoagie. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Tortorella is kind of bring him back to like the good old days of the 2000s when the Flyers were hard to play against, where like Tortorella kind of he motioned it in his interview, like, I want to coach in Philadelphia. That's my style of play. I think he's going to help Couturier kind of bring that back, because Couturier remembers, like Casey said 10 years ago, that winning culture, that being hard and tough to play against, especially Couturier, who's that type of player. We saw him shut down Malkin, Crosby, all those types of players for years. I think he's just going to help Couturier in the long run for the foreseeable future.
Agreed.
For the next 8 years.
Yeah.
4 years, I guess, because that's
4 years of exactly.
At least for however long we've got Tortorella. We'll see it past those 4 years. But back to Matt Casey's point, talking about guys coming off injuries. Next guy we want to touch on here is Kevin Hayes, former New York Ranger. You know, he played under AV, but at the same rate, a guy like Hayes, I'm a bit more hesitant. But like that personality that he has, I feel like it's easy for a guy like that to buy in, because he just looks like he's having fun out there. And that's the type of guy you want on any team, but the type of guy that, like, you know, it'll get down to it, and Tortorella is going to be a very demanding coach. But I think Hayes could respond well to that. I don't think we're talking like a 70, 80 point player here, but like I could see 50 maybe, you know, put in a role to succeed. Anybody thoughts on that?
Kick that to anyone?
You want to go, John, since you were so upset we started with Hoagie?
Yeah, I do want to go. I was really on the fence with this one, and I decided to go with Dyes. Yeah, I could have gone either way, though. I just felt like this was a little bit more dramatic. I think there's a few things. One, there is really that jokester personality. Like, obviously he takes his job seriously, right? He wouldn't be in the NHL if he didn't take it seriously. But I do wonder if, like, that always has to be kind of the mic'd up guy. I wonder if that butts heads with Tortorella, where he's just like, hey, listen, what are you doing? You know, I don't give a crap what your one-liner is.
Grab assing over there. Like, get to work.
And I also think that the thing that is kind of going against Hayes is that he is our 2C and not our 3C. And I just feel like Tortorella might demand more from him that he's just able to at this point. So I could just see it clashing for those reasons, where like Dyes might be too dramatic, but I can definitely see friction between those two, where I don't necessarily see that with Couturier.
Okay. Interesting point. I kind of viewing it a little bit different than I do there, but Casey, what are your thoughts on that?
So I was on the fence as well, but I'm going to go with thrive, but it's not going to be an immediate thrive. It's gonna take some time to bake. I think one of the things that Tortorella has said in several interviews is that he like appreciates the off ice element of a team, and that helps build a team.
Sure.
And he's okay with the guys going out and having a beer or two if they have an off night on the road. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think Kevin Hayes, it's like, hey, buddy, like let's go nuts. Let's go. You want to play cards? You know, he's the frat dude of the group. And you know, you heard in the bubble, you know, what was that? Two years ago now? You know, when the bubble, like, Hayes was just loving life. He was like with the boys, like just hanging out, snapping towels in the locker room, you know. Now, and so I think like Tortorella is gonna appreciate that, recognize that, hey, he's only 28 or 29. He's not that old, like he's getting up there, but the guys are gonna look up to him, and it's like, hey, you guys want to go out and have, you know, to Tommy O'Sorleys of the greater Calgary area, like let's go for it. Where I think there's going to be friction, and I agree with John, there's going to be friction, is I think he might have some lazy habits that like need to be broken. And the last 2 years certainly haven't helped him. Injuries haven't helped him. But I think you're going to see a little bit of friction in terms of his playing style and busting ass on both ends of the ice. And I'm not necessarily calling him like bad defensively or anything like that. I can just see it's going to take a little bit of time for him to really adjust to that, like 100% accountability on every shift of every game. So that I think he thrives, but I think it's not until Christmas that he ends up really buckling down.
Sure. Hoagie, what do you think, man?
I think he's thriving. Only because Tortorella called him out right in the interview, the first interview. He's a player that he's excited to coach, and he thinks he can get more out of. And I think we all expect more out of Kevin Hayes because, like John said, he's our 2C, and if he's able to give it to us, that's great. But I think Kevin Hayes is all on our fence list of, who knows where this could teeter. But I think he's going to thrive because he's another player that kind of just buys into that defensive style game. We kind of saw it with AV where he could just hold on to the puck and kind of control the last couple of minutes of a game by himself with a competent line mate that he can give the puck to when he's tired. But
sure,
I forgot about that whole aspect of his game. Like he almost has like that Yager-esque like big ass
possession.
We're just so used to the loud and proud Boston Kevin Hayes that we see not on the ice. We see in the locker room. We see in the tunnel. We see everywhere else. We kind of forget of his style of play, mainly because we didn't see it this past year because he was so hurt.
And
so
just a little. I just think it'll be interesting. Like the Flyers love to mic up Kevin Hayes, right? They like to put that stuff on social media, all those little clips. I almost wonder if Tortorella is going to try to push back against those things and just be like, no, if you want to win, keep that crap away, because he could care less about that part of Kevin Hayes.
Right.
The first person they're going to in regards to that, though, is Tortorella. They're like, hey, Tort, let's put a mic on you. And he's going to look at him, and it's going to be like, yeah, sure. He's going to be like, touch me with that mic, and I'll take this hockey stick.
No, he's going to take it. No, he's going to take it, drop it, and just smash it. And just don't put it
I'd like that.
Like,
that's a statement.
The PR people come up to Kevin Hayes like day one. It's like, all right, Kevin, here it is. We're going to put you in a Toyota with Gritty. You're going to ride to the Tasty Cake Factory. And every
pick
time
up
we say, you're going to pick up, and then you're going to throw Tasty Cakes at Torts. And he's going to be like, oh, yeah, great. So one thing back to Hayes' style of play, I would push back a little bit that we didn't see it last year because he was the one guy, once he was healthy enough, when Giroux was gone, that it was like you could see the mentality change in him where it's like, okay, I'm now one of the guys. Like I'm not the guy, but I'm one of the guys who's gotta start leading this team. And you can see him just want more responsibility, and so I'm hoping that carries over as well.
He had a stretch of, I think, 10 games where he was out of this world, playing really well right after AV was fired. So definitely could see if it's that type of Kevin Hayes that we do see, fantastic. I mean, you couldn't ask for more from a guy that you're slating to be your 2C, at least on the Flyers, But moving down the list here, we get to JVR, and on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3,
dies.
All right, moving on. Is there?
We got to get into this.
We got to get into this. Okay. Well, we got questions to get to, so let's get your points across.
Give it a JVR a little bit.
Give it a
All right, Casey, go for it.
Last year, the contract, older player, probably going to retire after this. He's not going to be changing habits. Tortorella is going to friggin' put him into a meat grinder and toss him out. He's in the press box by Christmas.
Wow. Ballsy.
I'm not saying
we have all those bottom sixers, baby.
Let's say, care to elaborate, Hoagie? What are your thoughts?
Like Casey said, he's not going to change. There's nothing for him to buy into. He's in the last year of his contract. He knows he'll probably be gone by the trade deadline. Like, if he can help this team and put in some goals and get us into a playoff spot, great. But we all know what this team's looking like right now, and I don't think that JVR is going to help propel us to that next level. So, see you later. He's not buying in. I'm done. What did we talk about almost 8 months ago where we took him out back What was that?
Took me to see
Vice
the
Event. It
rabbits,
was-
George.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You got the reference.
Hey, Torts,
Yeah,
can you take me to see the rabbits, Torts? Yeah, come over here.
Oh God. All right, John.
I mean, I'm more interested to see what Tortorella possibly thinks he can do with him. I don't know where he's going to put him. You know, I mean, you can't start him on the fourth line.
Sure, he can.
Well, sure he
If
can,
you
but
want
he's
him
not
to
going to.
suck worse than he does, like.
It's like,
I mean,
did
we
you
did
just
it
put him in the
last year.
power play? Just
Yeah.
JVR. Just stand there. Just stand
Specialist.
there on the power play. That's all I want you to do. When it's over, you skate off. Right? Next time we get on power play, I'll put you there. Yeah.
Like what we should have done with Eric Gustafson.
It's
Like,
also
just
clear.
play the power play.
It's also clear that we wanted to get rid of this guy for the past 2 years and just were unable to.
Yeah.
Right.
Like from a player standpoint, I can't imagine that you're going in feeling really good about yourself.
Oh, sure.
You know?
It's like Andrew McDonald felt in his last couple years in Philly. Like everybody hated him. He's like, I still got to show up to work. Like, hey guys, how's it going? Like, shut up. No, I like the boldness of Matt Casey's point there in the press box by Christmas. I don't know if that's going to be the case if they want to try to,
Trade
quote
him.
unquote, showcase him for the trade deadline. But I also can't help but think if they do bench him, what does that do to his trade value? Now, our hope and our prayer is that he does something before the trade deadline to say, hey, he could give you some value, maybe give you that extra piece that you need to get over the hump. But if he's not going to do well and towards the system, people are going to look at that and be like, wow, man, he sucks this year. Like, what can we realistically get him for? Maybe a third round pick. So two sides to this, I can only hope he does well. But at the end of the day, all things considered, I just don't see it.
But also, too, you got to think, like, Tortorella, the trade deadline is not in his mind. Like, he wants to produce a winner. He could care less what the JVR's value is at the trade deadline, So, like, I think for us, it's really easy to put that kind of at the forefront because we're thinking this team isn't going to be any good. But, like, when it comes to the people who are coaching this team or playing, like, they're not thinking about that stuff.
Sure.
Just to clarify, when I say in the press box, I'm saying he's made a visit to the press box. I'm not saying he's benched for good.
Forever.
But I'm betting that forever.
Handcuffed him to Bill Meltzer. They're like, he's your buddy for the rest of the year. You're only playing if Meltzer makes the ice.
Right.
Oh,
Get
boy.
used to that microphone, JVR. That's the only place you're going to be sitting. So I don't know.
Podcasts.
I think he ends up getting a 2-game benching before Christmas.
Sure. Yeah, good points. Then let's take it down here to the blue line. We've got Ivan Provorov. This was the one I felt like there were going to be a lot of mixed answers to in terms of us here. So let's go back to John. Ivan Provorov, does he thrive or does he die?
I think he absolutely thrives. I think that, you've got a coach who is defense first, right? I think that he's really going to help bring out the best in Ivan Provorov. And I also think we have to keep in mind that he's finally got a partner who can kind of take on the offensive grunt work that we've relied on Ivan Provorov for so long, and it just really wasn't him. So I think that the mixture of Tortorella providing a game plan that I think benefits his style of play while also having a partner to kind of take the pressure off of, that offensive side and allow Provorov to play his game. I think that if there ever were a year where he's going to turn it around, like, this is it. And I do think he will.
Okay. All right. Hoagie.
This one is so tough for me. I'm, like you said, this is going to bring a lot of emotion, a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of on the fencers. I am completely on the fence, but I think he's going to die. I think he's just so boneheaded. And just, not in like a negative way. I just think he's just so.
Who's ever complimented you as calling you a bonehead, Hoagie?
Hey,
I hate to tell you,
bonehead.
It wasn't a compliment.
Whatever, you know what I mean? Like, he's just so.
Christian, you're never gonna believe. Somebody said the nicest thing to me today. They were like, "Hey, you're a real bonehead."
Because I had defined cheekbones. Yeah.
No, I just think he's just so stuck in his ways that like he's gonna want all the ice time. He's gonna be one. He's gonna want to be the guy. He's gonna be gonna be on the power play. He's just gonna want to do it all. And I think Tortorella's like, yo, bro, it ain't you. You're not that guy, pal. And I think it's just really just gonna hit his ego and just kind of knock him down a few pegs. And we're not gonna see the Provorov that we're used to seeing of late. I mean, we haven't really seen much of him, but 3 years ago we saw a lot of offensive production, a lot of prowess. I just don't think he's gonna thrive in Tortorella's system or coaching regime.
So, real quick before we get to Casey here, John, I had a question for you and your frame of mind.
Yep.
You'd said that you think Provorov is going to be good defensively sound with D'Angelo because D'Angelo is such an efficient, essentially offensive defenseman here.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I want this to kind of spark a little bit of a bigger discussion, but past partners that Provorov has had between guys like Niskanen, guys like Braun, those guys are pretty defensively sound, and we're there to kind of make up for Provorov's lack of being able to get back on the play and taking himself out of the play when he's back on defense. So what's making you think that automatically he's going to be able to switch gears and be that guy that he's kind of relied on in the past?
Because I think it's actually kind of the opposite of what Hoagie's saying. I think for so long, Ivan Provorov has felt like he's had to be that guy, right? He has been our de facto number one defenseman that I think he's had to take on so much that I almost feel like there's going to be like relief that he doesn't necessarily have to be that person where he can focus on the defensive side of his game. And I do think he's going to still contribute offensively, right? But I just think that like when you have somebody like Braun, you're the offensive punch to a defensive pair. You know what I mean? Like there's not as much pressure to be that with D'Angelo. D'Angelo can be your outlet, your strong outlet pass, where it's like he can almost kind of be that two-way defenseman more than he was in the past. I just think that this is somebody who clearly listens to criticism, right? This is someone who clearly is following what other people have to say. I think the pressure was starting to get to him. And I think that finally you're getting to a system where it's like maybe a little bit of the pressure will be off. We have a partner where it's like, okay, maybe he can relieve a little bit of the pressure, the demand that's been on this guy essentially since he joined the team when he was 19.
Okay, no, fair points. And I figured this would spark, a little bit more thought. But Matt, Casey, getting back to you, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm going thrive as well. A lot of the points that John made were similar to what I had in mind. Hoagie, I get your perspective, but I think it's actually like I'm not looking at it more as like Provorov the player. I'm looking at the players around Provorov and the structure that they are going to have. Provorov, if like you think about it, he's almost, please excuse like the Russian like combination here, but he's almost like Ivan Drago. He's almost a machine. It's like you do this, I do this. You do this, I do this. Like he is very structured regimented to a T. Right. And so like when he's going for an outlet pass, but there's no one turned around on the forward side to get the outlet pass, he can't pass the puck. And like that's not necessarily on him, that's on the forward. And like you saw this time and time again, not just with outlet passes, but like he wants to do the right thing. Other people around him weren't. Now, did he make mistakes and make boneheaded plays? Certainly. But I think that's a subject of him not having reliable systems in place and people that were following those systems to the way that he wants them. Now, I think he is going to take a different role this year, and I think I'm okay with it, man. Like, I think that, if he's learned anything from Niskanen, if he's learned something from Braun, it's like, all right, you don't always have to be the flashy guy. You can be a hell of a defenseman and be the stay-at-home, more defensive, responsible guy. The one area that I'm interested in, and this kind of flies, it's almost the polar opposite of Hayes, where I think Provorov's going to be very structured and do great on the ice with Tortorella's structure. I think off the ice, it's well noted. Like he doesn't like to go out to have beers with the boys. Like he doesn't like to go hang out. Like I think there's always going to be that little bit of outlierish with him. And you can't blame the guy, like that's his personality. It is what it is. But I think as long as
the Flyers, it's too cool.
as long as he's getting it done on the ice, like, okay, who cares? It's, what's the difference between that and some guy going home to his wife and kids and not going out to the beers? Like, he just wants to do his own thing. He wants to go lift extra weights or something, or, run with an oxygen mask on and, do sprints. But, I think overall he ends up thriving in this system.
I do think, just to piggyback off that, Casey, I do think there will be, sorry, Derek, but I'm not really that sorry. I do think that there's going to be a learning curve too, because if you really think about the people who have been around a longer, stint, Ivan Provorov's really only known one thing, right? And that it's that Giroux locker room and whatever that was, right? But clearly that mix of players just didn't work. It's going to take a while for him to kind of assimilate to what Tortorella's locker room is going to look like. And I do think that there might be some of those moments where it's like, hey, I know this might not necessarily be something that you're into, but maybe try it sometime because we're trying to build a culture here and we want to all be tight. And I don't necessarily think there'll be pushback, right? But I think there might be those times where it's like Tortorella will ask something of him that he just isn't used to doing because it just locker room never called for it in the past.
Sure. Fair point.
All good points. I mean, I think this is similar to how I think it was Casey described Kevin Hayes, where I think he's going to thrive, but it's going to take some time to get there. There is going to be that natural adjustment having a new defensive partner. I think his third in 3 years.
Third? I feel like it's
fourth in 4 years, something like that. Like consistent partners,
right?
Like Justin Braun.
Well, that's
1 year.
The problem, right?
Exactly. That's a problem. I mean, most of your best defensemen in the league are typically the ones that have, solidarity when it comes to that. They have the same guy that they're playing with year in and year out. I don't know. I have a little bit of trouble thinking the same thoughts that you are, John, in terms of him, being able to be relied upon defensively. Sure. I see where you're coming from, and I think it's a possibility. I don't know if he's going to be able to boom, hit that switch and be able to just say, okay, now I'm the defensive minded one and I have to cover for D'Angelo.
But I think maybe I might not be getting my point across correctly then, because I don't think it's going to be a switch where it's like all of a sudden he's Justin Braun and Tony D'Angelo is the Ivan Provorov. I think that Tortorella demands a much more defensively responsible game that just by system, Provorov is going to be in a better position. And I don't think that he's going to have to carry the offensive load the way that he had to in the past, where it's like Tony D'Angelo can do all of this as well, probably better than him, where it's like he's not relied upon it. I don't think that all of a sudden he's just going to – it's not just that whole thing where it's like, well, you got one guy who's going to carry the offense, the other one's going to kind of be the defensive stalwart. I just think that he'll be able to spend a little bit more time focusing on the defensive aspects of his game because he has a partner like D'Angelo.
Well, sure. And I think, he'll have that time. I think that's a great luxury to have, but is he going to be able to translate it? That's, I guess, my biggest question, because you can hammer it to him all you want saying you're now a defensive-minded defenseman. You're now a defensive-minded defenseman. But is it going to stick? And is he capable of doing that?
I don't even think it's like it's going to be what the structure requires him to be.
Right.
This isn't a free-flowing system that it's like, all right, man, you see a line, go for it. It's like, no, it's as you said, Derek, regimented. And I think if anything, and we'll get to him in a couple weeks, I'm sure, but I'm interested to see what D'Angelo does with all this. Right. So I feel like he is that free-flowing Gostisbehere type of player. I don't think it's like, hey, this is your role. This is your role. I think it's just going to be like, this is how the system requires you to play. And he'll be like, I see now. Thank you.
Cool.
And if he can't, then you know what? He dies in this system. You know what I mean?
If he dies.
But if he cannot play a defensively structured game, then it's not going to work.
Sure.
But it's not. I think you have to move away from that idea of he's the defensive defenseman. This isn't NHL 23. It's not a role that he's going to be put.
And I don't want you to think I mean necessarily like the Justin Braun, like defensive defenseman only
Right.
focuses on blocking shots, getting back, but like that prototypical, let's call him like two-way guy,
Yeah.
where he has the capabilities of jumping up in the play, is more than competent when it comes to the offensive side of the puck, but also is going to be a bit more responsible on his own end.
I also think that his work ethic and the fact that this guy like works out 32 hours a day will tell you that like if anybody can put in the work to change to do it, I do think it's him.
Right.
Yep. No, fair point. Absolutely a fair point.
I think the biggest asset that he has, honestly, and God, knock on wood, but like is availability. I mean, like
there it is.
Type of ability.
There it is. Blowing out a knee. He's gonna be like, hey, I really want to play in the rookie game. Do you guys mind?
Oh my god. All right. Well, before we
moving on,
curse this team anymore, let's get to the questions. We fielded a bunch of questions here. This is the first time we've done it in a while, which I mean, you guys can all attest to. When we do these questions, it's usually about this time of year. And we usually get a pretty decent turnout, but this time, I mean, we got a lot of questions. So Hoagie's in charge of the questions here. We're going to respond.
Is he going to
I'll read them off.
Do you want me to read them or do you want to read them?
Oh, no, Derek, don't let Hoagie read them.
I'll read them. Good. All right, Hoagie pulls them up. I'll read them. First one, Brandon Harper at Harper B101. Would JT Miller be a good fit? And what do you think we would have to give up to get him? And what is his next contract going to be? So a tiered question here. Let's start with the first part. JT Miller, is he a good fit, John?
I mean, he seems like an upgrade to what we've got.
What isn't?
I mean, he's a center, JT Miller?
Correct.
Left winger.
Is he?
Oh, is he?
He's a forward.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, sorry,
listen, he's more of like that. I hesitate to call him like top end talent, but he's played pretty well in Vancouver, where it's like, yeah, he'd be a great fit.
Man. All right, Hoagie, good fit.
Absolutely, anything's a good fit when
you suck.
Well, yeah, when we have what we have here. Come on,
Matt Casey.
Yeah, I'd say yes. I mean, he was rumored last year for a little bit as well.
He's been in trade rumors, I think, for like the past 3 years. Yeah.
Right.
But you're looking at him. He's 6'1", roughly 220. Like he's a solid, solid guy in there. We might have an opening on left wing down the road.
Good guy for Gauthier to maybe model his game after. Gautier's a pretty big kid.
But looking at his stats last year, had 32 goals. That was by far his highest. But I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on him.
Yeah. Again, it's an upgrade. I'd like it, but that begs the next question: what do you think we would have to give up? So Casey, where you follow up with Casey here, go reverse order.
Any idea what he's making currently?
$5.25 million. And the term was 5 years. FYI.
Is he on the last year of his contract?
This is the last year of his contract. He's a UFA.
Connect me for Miller, straight up.
Yeah, I think one, if you're doing it, I assume it's an off-season thing when we've already cleared some stuff out of there. So if he's a free agent next year, why do you have to give up anything?
Sure.
Right.
So you can get his rights.
All right.
6th round pick.
So we give up I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think, Hoagie?
Yeah.
Or sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there, Casey.
I was BSing with the best of them there. I got nothing.
All right, Hoagie.
Depending on how his year goes this year, I'd imagine he's gonna be wanting like a $6.5 million.
Dude, I think he's talking about a trade.
Oh, right. Sorry, I went to the third question. My bad.
You were just trying to read it again.
Yeah. What do we have to give up? I would hope nothing. Try to get him in the offseason as UFA.
John?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a cop-out answer, but why burn assets on a guy this season when like at best we're like a very fringe wild card team if everybody's healthy. Right. So you're not looking to burn assets on a guy that you could possibly sign the next year.
Yeah. I'm in the same line of thinking with that. But in terms of that, when his contract does expire, what do you think his next contract looks like, John?
predicting contracts these days is like
Well, there's a model on Evolving Wild. You should probably go check it out.
He's on the Delorier road. He'd give it to him.
I mean, so Casey, you said he scored 32 goals last year.
Yep, and that was his highest. I think.
All right, so if he does that again, right, you're looking at a $7 million player, or is that right? I mean,
6.5 to 7.
6.5 to 7, yeah. I mean, and he's going to want as much term as possible. This is probably his big deal.
I mean, he had 99 points last year. I mean, that's
boy.
solid, man.
Yeah.
On the Vancouver Canucks too.
The next highest was 1920 at 72. So I think this year is obviously a big, big year for him, no doubt.
Sure. Yeah.
If he's comparable to that, then he's going to get something.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Eden.
Come on, quick trigger, Hoagie.
There
Let's
we
go,
go,
buddy.
All right. G-Side-L 1990 on Twitter. If you guys had to build a Flyers team from scratch, who would be your starting five? Any team, any era. John, you worked hard on this about 30 seconds before the show, so you want to get your input here.
So I was a little confused when he said any team because I was like, you just pick from any NHL team, but I did just stick with the Flyers. I think we all did. I didn't go your just, best Flyers of all time because I felt like that was a bit of a cop-out. I tried to get in some work ethic guys. So anyway, I'll just shut up and tell you who I have. So at center, I had Rod Brendamore. My wingers were John LeClair and Tim Kerr. My left D was Mark Howe. My right D was Eric Desjardins. It's just a starting five, but should I give the goalie?
Yes.
Carter Hart.
Sure. No, you didn't.
I did. And the reason I did Carter Hart was because if you look at all of the other great Flyers goalies, the length of time that they were actually great goalies was pretty brief, right? We look at Bernie Perron, it was like a 3-year deal where he was phenomenal. So I just figured if you have that good of a core around Carter Hart at the age, if we're talking about building a franchise with the potential that he comes with, seems like a good idea to me.
That's fair. That is fair. Hoagie, how about you, man?
He's putting it together right now.
No, I was getting the rest of the questions ready. All right, I went Big E at center. Brian Propp. You know who I'm talking about. I hate you. Brian Propp on left wing. Claude Giroux on the right. I went Kimmo Timonen and Eric Desjardins for defenseman. And Pelly Lindbergh.
Okay. All right.
Good one.
How about you, Matt Casey?
So I went Forsberg in the middle. I went LeClair wing, Reggie Leach wing. And more so because it's all right, you got the playmaker, the brute in LeClair, and then you got the shooter. And so I liked that combo. And then I went Pronger and Desjardins on defense. And I have no idea if both of them are righty lefty. I didn't go that far into it.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Pronger's a lefty.
Was Desjardins a righty?
Righty, yep.
There you go. Keeping the dynamic.
Goalie, I just jotted down. I'm going Bob. I'm going Bobrovsky.
Interesting.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't say whether he's
not
performed
Bobrovsky
well
now.
with the Flyers or not.
Bobrovsky when he was with Columbus. Bobrovsky
When he was a Vezina.
When he won a Vezina. There you go. Say no Nitamaki. I went McLeish, Lindros, and Prop with same defensive pairing as John, Desjardins and Howe. And then I've got Bernie in net.
Fun little exercise.
Yeah, it was fun. That was a good one. That was a really good question.
Hard to really get that one wrong. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Everybody's got
let's
their
try to figure out a wrong answer to that. Hold on. This could be fun.
Dale
Okay.
Weiss.
Nick Albay-Kubel.
Chris Vandevelde.
Andrew McDonald.
Blair Betts.
Yeah, Blair Betts.
Brandon
Riley
Manning.
Cote.
And Michael
boy.
Lighton in goal.
All right, and moving on.
All right, next question we've got here. Brandon Harper again. Is Morgan Frost a third line center this year? Or do you think guys like Jackson Cates, who could be an interesting player with his brother on his wing, or Tanner Lashinsky have a chance at beating him? Both guys potentially seem more like Torts guys over Frost, he adds. So, Matt Casey, Morgan Frost, is he the third line center this year?
Yes. I think he is the third line center. I would say, does he stay there? I don't know, but I think that's where he is slotted. I think we can all agree to that. Do Lashinsky or Cates have a chance of beating out? Yeah, I think they absolutely do.
For sure.
My whole perspective on Frost is we need the offense. We need him to step up offensively. And so if the best case scenario, and I think we touched on this last week, he's not our third line center. If he's our second line center, that's a hell of a best case scenario because it means he's playing well.
Agreed. Hoagie.
If he's not 3C to start the year, then he did something wrong in camp.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
John.
Yeah, I mean, the Flyers are going to give Morgan Frost every opportunity to be the 3C or above. You know, I mean, like he would in this current lineup structure or roster depth, he would really have to screw up to kind of get that role taken away from him, unless we go deep into this season and all is lost and he proves he just can't handle it. But I think that if we've got Jackson Cates playing 3C, we've got bigger problems.
Right.
Yeah. Does he start there? Yeah. Does he end there? I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Well, that's what the organization needs to find out. And that's why they're going to give him as much time as possible.
Yeah, I don't think he ends the season there. But again, that's why they play the games. So he definitely starts there, though. Hoagie, next slide, please. Sam Wismer, who do you think is going to have a breakout year? John.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Provorov. Does that count as a breakout year? Or is that more of a turnaround year?
A breakout year.
A re-breakout.
A re-breakout, right.
Yeah.
A re-breakout in the re-foundation of the Flyers. I think he's going to be the one to turn the tide.
Stabilization, yeah.
You know, but if we're going like full-blown breakout, hasn't had anything yet, I'd say Owen Tippett.
Okay. Hoagie.
Carter Hart.
Ooh, I like it. Casey.
I'm going Cam York. I think Cam York is gonna thrive with Granddaddy Braun.
Son of a... Oh. Right,
What if you said Justin Braun is your pick? Justin Braun is great.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
winner, baby.
it's like a re-breakout. I'm gonna go off the beaten path here. I'm gonna say
Jackson Cates.
no.
Sean Couturier.
No.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say Tyson Forster. I think if he comes up and makes the team, whether it's at any point in the season, I think he can show this team that, you know, he's here, he's good, and we could have a pretty decent winger on our hands.
Can I throw a runner-up in there?
No,
Go for it.
Sam didn't ask for a runner-up.
Wait, I'm going Wade Allison. If he signs a contract, I'm saying Wade Allison.
All right.
Him and his
Contingencies.
Walker.
Oh. All right, that's
Moving
fair.
on.
All right, next one comes from two separate people. Same topic here. Shane Moon with the one original question, I should say. With all right, John, you're gonna have to correct me here. Emile Andre, correct?
Yep.
Performance at the World Junior Classic. With his performance at the World Junior Classic, what is his timeline for arriving in North America? Which Brandon Harper as well adds. How long before he makes the jump to North America, and then future with the organization. Also mentions listening to Pod Street Prospects, as if I need to pump John's tires even more.
And Hoagies.
And Hoagies.
Well,
He's just got a little sad right there.
I don't mind pumping Hoagie's tires. It's John that I have the problem with, and by doing so, I got to pump both your tires because you're both on the show. Whatever. John.
Yep.
Answer the
Answer
question.
the question.
Jesus.
Present.
So here's the thing. The World Junior Championship means jack shit when it comes to, you know, how his timeline to North America. Emile Andre, what's going to be telling for him is how he plays in the SHL this season, because it's his first season in the pro league. The dude is 5'9", 175 pounds, and he's a defenseman. I really struggle with that translating to the NHL. And I'm sure somebody digging deep can point out somebody where it's like, okay, this player did it. But like, I think that the Flyers aren't really looking at the World Juniors and saying, this is what's going to make us sign him and bring him to North America. They want to see what he does at the pro level in Sweden. And then that will be telling. If he has a successful year in the SHL, I think he comes right after. I think they sign him right after 1 year in the SHL, and then that's it, and he's on track. But, like, I just think I've said it a million times. We need to pump the brakes when it comes to these things because we need to see how he plays against people who are more developed and experienced than him, not his peers.
All right, Hoagie.
I'm in agreement. I mean, 3 goals, 2 assists in 3 games. Small sample size against kids his own age. Like John said, I'd like to see what he has to prove in a more better league with the SHL than just World Juniors.
Like a more comparable league.
Yeah, right. It's telling with World Juniors that you're there. He's doing a good job, yeah, but I don't think he's on a shoot right over. Mm-hmm. Let's see what he has to offer this upcoming year, and then see when he comes.
All right, Matt Casey.
I got nothing on this. I wouldn't know this guy. Like, sorry, I'm not gonna try to BS an answer out of this one. But
Casey, can I ask you a question though? So, if you're just evaluating a player in general, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when you look at like the World Junior Championship is all players on a similar level as you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, to you, can you really get something from that as to like if he'll be an NHL player?
Look, I'll say this, that like I would rather hear him doing well in the World Juniors versus not doing anything. So like, sure. I think it's a step in the right direction, but until you actually see him play against grown ass men, and you know, who are gonna ragdoll 170 pounder all over the place, like I don't really know how it's gonna translate all that well. But like, look, good for him. He's playing to the competition that's in front of him right now. Can he play up above it? We'll see. But I think to your point, John, I don't put a lot of stock in any of these World Junior Championship things. Like, every year you hear about, oh, this guy's the next so-and-so. He's the next so-and-so. But you know, I just, until I see them at least with the Phantoms or, you know, somewhere in a comparable league, like I'm not paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've got the contracts that are expiring. You know, we'll see what he can do likely at the AHL level before anything. So I'm not going to get my hopes up, but at the same rate, pretty decent job during the small sample size that he has played at the World Junior Classics. So
5'9" is tiny.
Yep.
5'9" is tiny. On the blue line?
I'd kill to be 5'9".
And he's like 175.
He can beef up.
So can everybody else in the Flyers.
Tell that to Igor Zamola.
Yeah, well, there's always one.
All right, moving on.
Good call, Hoagie. Ray Skeets. No, name one reason why you are interested in watching the Flyers play this year. And apologies in advance for the insanely difficult question. Hoagie, let's start with you. Why are you interested in watching the Flyers play this year?
Mainly just because of the podcast. No. It's the team that we want to watch. We hope they do well, and the reason why I'm interested in watching them, I kind of want to see how Tortorella can turn this team around. That's why I'm interested in watching this team play.
Good answer. How about you, Matt Casey?
I'm interested mainly because I believe we have a group of decent players who have dramatically underachieved. I think Tortorella can make at least a handful of them overachieve, and probably still not good enough to be playoff. But, you know, I do think looking at a positive trajectory after 2 dismal years where we watched every single game, or at least I watched almost every single game, and you sit there and you just go, someday it's going to start getting better. And I'm hoping that that's what this year is going to be. It's not going to be great, but it's going to get better. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Gotcha. John?
Tortorella and everything that Tortorella kind of just brings to the table. In my mind, I'm looking at it as like viewing this season as just one game at a time. And if Tortorella can get this team to just play competitive games, I don't even care if they lose 2-1 every night. But if it's just a competitive hockey game, I'll enjoy it because we can still possibly get Connor Bedard. But we'll look competitive. And I'm just really intrigued by the Tortorella effect and how much he can kind of change the culture and make this team, as Chuck likes to say, tough to play against.
Yeah. Tortorella is the big factor there.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this team responds to his type of coaching. So that's the biggest thing for me. But again, we love the team. It's a team we cover. It's a team I've always loved. So that's another big reason too. Hoagie, next slide.
This is loaded.
PJ and the Bear. So let's talk
one.
about the elephant in the room. If Carter Hart goes down for the Team Canada rape, and he adds in parentheses, it doesn't sound good, who gets the nod in net for the Flyers?
What do you mean it doesn't sound good? What's that mean?
Right.
That was his words, not mine.
But really quick, to my understanding, there is no connection to Carter Hart. Like, I don't want it to come off like how people get when you say the wrong thing. But like, to my understanding, he's not a player in question, is he?
People have come out with answers and statements in regards to it, and he hasn't come out independently. He's underneath one of the attorneys that has come out with a blanket statement saying these guys are clear, but math isn't adding up. X amount of people have been cleared, but there's X amount of people on the team, and 8 of them did it. And they're like, hold on a second, 20 of the 24 have cleared their names. Like, somebody's lying. So long story short, he's not completely in the clear, but I don't think anybody is completely in the clear yet until they get to the bottom of this. But
right. Well, I think too, Derek, and if you don't mind, I think that like the best way to do this is because we're not really sure about this situation, to kind of broaden this a little bit. If Carter Hart goes down for any reason,
yeah, right. There we go.
This team's screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like it
but
doesn't
who are they
matter
screwed within that?
Sandstrom, because I think at that point it's like, well, crap, we're done. We might as well see what this young kid's got.
Right.
Carrying the load.
Hoagie,
Sandstrom,
Casey,
Ditto.
Yep. Sandstrom across the board. There we go.
last one here.
Dorian. This guy has predicted Flyers wins for us before in our DMs, so I hold him in a very high regard. Have you guys ever had ketchup chips? Apparently they only exist in Canada. I can disprove that and say that I have had ketchup chips in the great United States, and they're meh.
Didn't Heinz make them at one point?
I think so, yeah.
That seems like a real bold.
I think hers makes
statement.
ketchup chips, if I'm not
Or maybe
mistaken.
it was hers. It was hers with Heinz.
Yeah, like Heinz
Something like
ketchup,
that. Yep.
hers potato chip brand.
I want
I'm just
nothing
not a
to
big
do with
ketchup. I'm not a big ketchup guy.
Good brand collab on that one.
No, I just
So
ketchup's
apparently
not
they're
my
out
thing.
there, Dorian, but I
They
don't want
are.
to.
Hey, you know what?
They're
I'll
not
throw
good.
this out there. Never had a ketchup chip, but I did have. There's like a Frank's hot sauce chip that's actually pretty good.
I would eat that.
solid. Yeah.
I'm a
Especially
Martin's
after you've,
jalapeno fan.
puffed the
Nah.
Magic Dragon, if you will.
I don't know. Are you guys familiar with Martin's potato chips at all?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, I don't
Oh,
know,
dude.
Martin.
They're from like where I live.
It's
And-
like Central PA, North PA.
Yeah. It's like a 20-minute drive from where I live, and they have some of the best potato chips ever. Utz too is in Hanover, which is close to us.
Yep.
Loved it. Love chips. I just like chips. in
Favorite
general.
kind of chip with count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Fritos.
Barbecue.
No green onion.
Wow, sour cream and onion. Ugh.
You would, you old bastard. Back in
Anybody
my
like
day,
salt and vinegar? I love a good salt and
Yes.
vinegar chip.
yes.
It's like
Oh,
torturous on the tongue,
Dude.
but I love it.
Cape Cod
Disgusting.
salt and
Those
vinegar.
are
Cape Cod salt and vinegar chips. Best salt and vinegar chips, hands down.
I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
Casey. We all can't be the cigarette smoking blonde driving the Chrysler with your sour cream and onions. All right.
I actually really like barbecue better, but I buckled under the pressure.
Martin's has a barbecue chip that's absolutely delicious. There's a flavor for every
Really
occasion.
Really stretching on that one.
Call
They're
us
the
up,
only one with
Martins.
barbecue chips.
No free ads, Derek.
Right.
I'll meet with him later. Anyways, no, we've gotten through the questions. We've gotten through everything else we wanted to talk about. So, Hoagie, you've got about 30 seconds to tell us your dad joke and make us laugh.
I accidentally sprayed deodorant in my mouth. Now when I talk, I have this weird accent.
Oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
No,
Wouldn't that
that
be
one
body
was
spray?
bad. Yeah. Does Axe have a
There's
stinger?
too many holes in that dad joke. I don't like it.
Mm. And you're killing the environment.
I had real high hopes for that one, man. Then you just let me down.
You rushed me.
Rushed you.
Environmentalists are going to be all over.
You know it's
our
coming at the end of
asses.
every
Look at that.
episode. How do we rush you with a dad joke? Come on.
You got 30 seconds.
Well,
Can't
now
read
you got
anything
10
in
seconds to tell
30
us
seconds.
where they can find you on Twitter.
Pod Street Hoax.
Time to spare. Matt Casey, spell it out for us.
Pod Street Casey, C-A-S-E-Y on Twitter. Pod Street Casey, C-A-S-E-Y.
Beautiful.
Bingo, what's his name, bro?
John Gove.
Yeah, you can find our podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles. If you're looking for a new one, you can Google it.
Wonderful. You
What
can
about
check
your
out.
Safari to get it?
Oh, you could Safari it too.
Yeah.
Do you Bing it? No,
Bing it?
Does anybody
Yeah, Bing's
Bing
still
it?
a thing.
Bing it.
Can you
Yeah.
ask Jeeves?
Shut up. Hoagie,
Fair.
Hoagie, they stopped doing Ask Jeeves before you were even born, buddy.
I had to go in my Netscape to find out what Ask Jeeves was.
Internet Explorer.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Can you
Well,
put it on
I'm going
the
to end this
Yahoo
episode
search
before
bar?
John just pisses everyone off. You can find us on Twitter at Pod
We've
ST
been
Bullies. You can find me
recording
on
for
Twitter
an
at
hour
Pod
and
Street
6
Bullies.
minutes.
You can find John on Twitter at Pod Street Gove. Check out our affiliates over at Flyers High and Wide. They're on Twitter at Flyers HW. Check out 5 Minute Major Podcast as well. They're on Twitter at 5 Min Major Pod. Otherwise, you can find us same place, same time next week, talking more Thrive or Die. Adios.
Bye now.